I didn't have a new Atari 7800 remake console on my 2024 bingo card, but here we are. Stay tuned because I'm going to tell you all about this new system and a raft of new game announcements to boot. So on the heels of the recent Atari 2600 Plus console release from Atari, we now have the news that came out today. The Atari 7800 Plus is on the way. Folks can now pre-order this device for $129.99, expected to deliver this winter. So what is the Atari 7800 Plus, and how is it different from the Atari 2600 Plus? That's an interesting question. According to Atari and their shop, the Atari 7800 Plus, for all intents and purposes, from what I've been able to gather, is really the Atari 2600 Plus with maybe some updated firmware and a new case that looks like an Atari 7800. So under the covers, it's kind of the same thing, but it's molded and shaped like a 7800. They do have bundled with this new system a single wireless controller. That's right, Atari has also announced two wireless controller types. One, we'll call it the 7800 type controller, and one, the classic Atari 2600 style wireless controller. If you buy the 7800 Plus basic bundle, is what I'll call it, you get the console, you get one wireless controller, you get a box, which unfortunately doesn't really look like the Atari 7800 packaging. I'll touch more on that in just a minute. And a copy of a new game exclusive to the Atari 7800, a new Bentley Bear game. Bentley Bear, of course, the titular character of Crystal Castles. And this appears to be a 2D platformer featuring good old Bentley Bear. It's a new title. So that's kind of an interesting pack-in for this new console. Admittedly, an example of something distinct from the Atari 2600 Plus, but nonetheless, again, kind of the same hardware. So if you have a 2600 Plus, you got to think twice. You got to think careful about what you're spending your $130 on. You're effectively buying a system that gives you nothing that you don't already have, but a wireless controller and a new cartridge. By the way, there's a second bundle of the Atari 7800 Plus that is being offered called the Controller Mega Bundle. That's going to cost you 170 bones. That gets you the 7800 Plus console, the wireless controller, a wired Atari CX-10 controller, and a wired set of paddles, presumably so that you could play pretty much anything that's joystick or paddle in the 2600 or 7800 variety. This also comes with the Bentley Bear game as well. So that is something for your consideration. Now, I don't think the lead story ought to be just the 7800 Plus coming out, because like I said, in my humble opinion, if you already have a 2600 Plus, you're not really gaining anything functionality-wise besides a wireless controller by spending your $130 on here. If you're one of those people that are going to buy anything from Atari, like you're a fan of Funko Pops and you'll buy any Funko Pop, or if you're a Hello Kitty fan and you own every Hello Kitty piece of merchandise on the planet, you probably already pre-ordered this. In my opinion, doesn't really mean anything. But if you're watching this far, you're probably wondering what this new thing is and if I should have it. So at the moment, and again, I'll mature my opinion as we go through this, but I would suggest that if you already have a 2600 Plus and you're not a completionist, that's an unfortunate reference, in terms of your collecting, you probably don't need this. And remember I mentioned the box art. I was thinking to myself, looking at that Atari 7800, the box art for this bears no resemblance to the authentic original Atari 7800 box art. So, I have to wonder to myself, and if you're the folks at Atari marketing, why? Like, if you realized, and I would like to assume you realized, that the market for this is pretty thin in terms of people that haven't yet purchased the 2600 Plus, and or people who are going to buy one of everything but want to kind of get some of that nostalgic feels as this thing is sitting on the shelf. Why not make the box look like an original 7800 box? I don't know. I guess I'm drawing a blank on that one, but I'm not the one making the decision. So again, it's up to you whether you think that it's worth that kind of money. Speaking of the controllers again, you can buy the CX-78, the 7800 wireless gamepad for 35 bones. These are compatible with the Atari 2600 Plus, so you don't need to upgrade to the 7800 Plus if you want the wireless. I think that's going to be a common misconception. So another reason perhaps why you may not need this console, again, if you're a 2600 Plus owner. Also, of course, the classic Atari 2600 style CX-40 joystick now has the wireless version that you can also pre-order, also for 35 bones. Now, lest you think that's the end of this product announcement, and we can draw some final conclusions. Oh, no. Atari has also dropped no less than 10 software announcements today as well. Let's go through them, starting with a raft of 7800 titles. We have Space Duel, a classic Atari arcade game ported to the 7800 here, and I think that's probably going to be a really good title. Space Duel was one of my favorites in the arcades. It's going to cost you 30 bones, and I got to tell you, the pricing seems fair on these. For a brand new game with the classic Atari 7800 packaging, it seems like it's a pretty good deal. They're pretty much all, I believe, going to be $30. So I think they have gotten the pricing right if these things are for you. Speaking of great vector arcade classics, Asteroids Deluxe is also getting an official port to the 7800 here. Also $30 again. If you loved the Atari Vector arcade games, you're probably going to want to pick these up, so highly recommended. Berserk, another classic arcade game, getting a new, fresh 7800 port, as is Frenzy. So, of course, Berserk and Frenzy are effectively twin games, if you will, twin brothers of games in terms of look and feel. So, again, that may well be up your alley if you enjoyed Berserk and or Frenzy. Of course, Bentley Bears Crystal Quest, not just the pack-in title that you get when you buy an Atari 7800 Plus, you can also buy it as a standalone for $30 as well and play it on your 2600 Plus, which, of course, plays the 7800 games as well. In addition, another 7800 title, Bounty Bob Strikes Back, a port of the sequel to Miner 2049er, the famous platformer, is going to hit the 7800 plus, but you can also run it on a regular 7800 as well. Again, 30 bones for that. Again, these are good titles. I will say that these remakes and these reimagines, they've picked some great source material. So I do give them credit for having some good taste, if you will. And now, speaking of good taste, I will also give praise where it's due for the 2600 era specific announcements they've made, starting with Caverns of Mars. This is a Caverns of Mars remake for the Atari 2600, another classic game. I believe this is the first time it's appeared on the 2600, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. And then the next three are compilations. So here we have the Epix Games Collection, and that's going to be Summer Games, Winter Games, and California Games. These were all on the Atari 2600. They were interesting titles, hard to find titles as well. So if you're an Atari 2600 collector, unless you've been at it for quite a bit, you probably don't have all three of these. So this is a great opportunity to get them all for $30 in a nice professional packaging. So again, I think this is an interesting choice and a good compilation. Speaking of compilations, there's another one, the M Network collection. There are some classic 2600 games in this one, including Armor Ambush, Astra Blast, my personal favorite M Network game, Frogs and Flies. Talk about a peaceful, fun, chill game. I would suggest that it's probably the most chill game in the Atari 2600 library. One of these days, maybe I'll do an extended feature on it, and also Star Strike. So for this compilation, I will most likely be picking this one up because I'm a huge fan of Frogs and Flies, and the M Network games in general are really fun to play. And then finally, we have Real Sports Collection. This is all the Real Sports games from the 2600, including an unreleased game, Basketball. So that includes Real Sports Soccer, Baseball, boxing, football, tennis, volleyball, and basketball. That for $30, I'd say that's a really good value. The Real Sports games were kind of like the second attempt at sports games on the Atari. Like, for example, the very first Atari baseball game was called Home Run, and it was basically everything was the players, the baseball, the bat were basically represented by squares in like a little line. So as you can imagine, that wasn't exactly the most compelling representation. But then a few years later, they came back with Real Sports, and the Real Sports baseball is just outstanding by Atari 2600 standards. So again, I would probably recommend this if you're a collector and you don't have all the Real Sports games. You probably have a blast with this. So coming back to what do I think about this? I'm of mixed opinion. I love the software titles that they've released. I think that some or all of these are going to be of interest to hardcore Atari collectors. And I think that it's probably going to be at least one or two for anyone that's in Atari. You're going to want to pick those up. Now, yet to be seen the quality on the wireless controllers, the build, the range, the signal, all that stuff. But, I mean, if they're even, basic quality wireless controllers, I think that they're going to be a must-have. If you're a dedicated Atari person and you just really want to lounge on the couch and play your 2600 plus or 7800 plus. So, again, excellent product release. But the 7800 plus itself, I mean, I got to tell you, I honestly think unless you don't have a 2600 plus and you prefer the 7800 in terms of the design and the look to the classic 2600, I just don't see the use case for this thing. Again, even for folks that collect everything, if you're going to aim for that market, at least try and make it look not only the console itself, but the packaging like an actual 7800. I think it honestly kind of misses the mark. I'm not convinced that there's a point in putting your $130 out on it. So that's my thing. Probably a pass for most of you. Now, I will say, before we close, that's not the only release I found out about that's going on in the Atari world. I went to the Atari Age forums because I did want to find out more information, technical information about the 7800 Plus. Do I have my facts straight and everything? And sure enough, when I went to the Atari News forum, right there, underneath the announcement for the new Atari 7800 Plus, was this amazing product announcement. That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, we now have an official licensed Atari CX-10 controller decanter set. That's right. You enjoy your whiskey and you enjoy your Atari, you got to have one of these. I mean, look at how majestic and beautiful these things are. Oh, chef's kiss. Whiskey glasses and games pad tray. Atari futuristic since forever. Iconic design, unique whiskey glasses, Atari game pad tray. High quality material. That's right, they're using real glass, ladies and gentlemen. These aren't chintzy plastic decanters you'd get from Wish. These are the real legit thing. So I gotta promise you, yes, as you'd imagine, I took the $130 I was gonna spend on the 7800 Plus and redirected it to the official Atari CX-10 Decanter set. I'm sure I'll put a link in the description to these bad boys. And of course, when I get them, you can bet your bippy, your sweet bippy, that I'll be doing a full review of the quality of these decanters. I guess you could say I've become somehow recently a gaming adjacent decanter set collector, what with knowing that these will sit in a place of honor and prestige next to my G4 TV decanter set. So there you go, folks. Final assessment. The games are awesome. You probably want the wireless controllers. Save your money on the 7800. Get the decanter set. Click like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments below how you feel about all this silliness. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on It's All Dug in Games.